Okay, so tonight we have Don Frank up here going to do a little informational on drying wood. So let's give him a hand.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I have been turning about 10 years. I live up in Smithville and am a member of the Kansas City Club. I have you that only turn dry wood, that don't turn any green wood at all. Okay, all right. Well, unfortunately for those that are just turn dry wood only, this one's going to be a sleeper for you, because the talk is about trying to dry wood faster with minimal problems. The two curses that we have as wood turners is that most of us are old, and then secondly, we have to wait on everything that we turn. If it's green wood, you have to whether it's a bowl that you're going to turn twice, and you know, turn it to 10% and set it in whatever methods you guys have used to try to control cracking and slow down the drying rate of the wood, whether it's put it in a 1 or 2 paper bags with or without sawdust. Some people seal the end grain with anchor seal before doing that, stick it on a shelf, wait 6 months or a year before they put it back on the lathe and return it. I'm impatient. I don't have to try to speed things up on everything, but there are some things that I like to speed the process up a little bit if I can. When I'm turning bowls, I try to do them in groups and do, 15 or 20 at a time, 12 to 20 at a time. And I don't necessarily do them all the same day, or even over a couple of days. Now that I'm retired, it's a little easier to do that. But when I was working 60 hours a week, I'd have maybe one day to work in the shop, and I would turn a few things. But then my drying method for those meant that I needed to stockpile those and put them in my kiln all at one time. So what I would do is I would turn whatever I got done today. I would simply put it in a chest freezer, and then I would do some more, and I'd put them in a chest freezer, and I'd build it up to the point where I had 12 or 15 of them done at one time. And I built a dishwasher kiln to dry them in. And all it is just take you can get a junk dishwasher any day of the week on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for free. And if you disassemble all the junk that's in the bottom of the dishwasher, get rid of the motor and everything, what you'll end up with is just a door that opens, an insulated shell, and with a hole in the bottom of it where the motor and everything was at. Well, one of these aluminum lights fits right down into that hole with an incandescent bulb, and you can put a 100-watt bulb in it. And what I found is that the kiln works really well if you fill it up completely. If you get as much stuff in there as you possibly can. It's less effective if you only had 2 or 3 or 4 things at once. So that's why I started putting them in the freezer and building up enough to fill the kiln all at one time. I'd pull them out the day before, let them thaw out. I'd stick them in the kiln, and simply it's a set it and forget it type of kiln. 100-watt light bulb, no fan inside. Dishwasher is self-venting anyway, so the excess humidity will find its way out either through the top of it or what gets around the rim on the bottom. And I took a temperature probe that you would stick in a pot for boiling shrimp or something, and I simply just drilled a hole through the door and stuck it in so I'd have some idea of what the temperature was. It would typically when it was full, and all that green wood was in there at one time, the heat would build fairly slow. It would get up to 90 degrees or something, and it would kind of sit there, and then it would gradually build up over the course of a week or so, to where it would usually top off in the low 100s, 102 or 4 or 5 or something on top temperature. And I don't open the door. I just leave it for 2 or 3 weeks, and depending on what the species of wood is, and typically in about 2 to 3 weeks they're bone dry. Of course, again, it depends on the thickness of what you're doing. If you're doing a fairly large bowl or something, where using the 10% rule, this would start out over an inch thick. And so if you're doing thick ones, it might push a month or something to do all of those. If you're doing some smaller ones that are a little thinner, you might be done in 3 weeks. But 2 or 3 weeks down the road, I'll pull them out. Normally I'll take 1 or 2 of them, I'll weigh them on a gram scale, and write it on the bottom of the bowl on what it is. And then 2 or 3 weeks down the line, I'll open it up, I'll weigh those same ones, and then I'll check them with the moisture. I have a good quality moisture meter. I'll check the moisture on them and see where they're at, and usually stick them back in for a day or two, double check them to see if those have lost any more weight in grams. And in general, in less than a month, I've had pretty good luck with that, with minimal cracking. Some species, oak is kind of a problem wood to dry. It has a tendency to deal you fits. And so I started a process that is working pretty well for that. If they're going to be twice turned bowls, I simply put anchor seal on the outside of the end grain, or I use white PVA glue, and I've grown to like the PVA glue better than the anchor seal. Brush a coat on, let it dry, stick them in the kiln.
That's
If
like
it's,
Elmer's glue, isn't it?
yeah, it's just Elmer's glue. Yeah, it's just
Water it down in it.
generally not. I'll put a little bit of water in it. It depends on the brand, on how thick it is. I'll buy the stuff in gallon jugs from Blick Artwork and get a case of 4 of them at one time. And their version is a little thicker than some of them, so I will water it down a little bit if I need to brush it on. But that seems to do a little better job than even what Anchor Seal does. If
A third of the price.
I'm sorry.
A third of the price.
Right. Yeah, it's fairly inexpensive too. A lot of times what I'm drying are things that are going to be just once turned, hollow forms and things where I turn them to thickness, and I'll load up a kiln full of those at one time. And on something that I'm not going to put back on the lathe and turn again, I still want to seal the end grain if possible, particularly on oak, but I don't want to use anchor seal or something on it that's going to mess with the finish, and I don't particularly want to use the white glue for the same reason. So I started using something, my career before, I did lots and lots of molding of things with silicones and urethanes and lots of plastics, and so I was familiar with all of those things. One of the down and dirty, very cheap things that in the molding world that you can buy is latex rubber. And latex rubber is the same stuff that they use to make Halloween masks. And you can go to Hobby Lobby down the street here and buy a little can of it. They'll call it Mold Maker or something, whatever their brand is. I'm sorry. Oh, sure. Yeah, you bet. Now this is a different brand than what you're likely to buy. This is just one that I had left over from. I would use this product sometimes to make some inexpensive molds on things that I wasn't going to reproduce a lot of parts out of. So it's a cheap product. It's good for molding things and making a dozen parts or something out of it before it goes bad. But it's just the they make latex rubbers. You can get them as thin as milk, and you can get them as thick as cold cream. This one is the thicker variety. You know, it's kind of like cold cream or Noxzema or something as far as the viscosity of it. And so all that I'm doing is just brushing a coat on the outside of the end grain on that product and letting it dry overnight, and then sticking the items in the kiln and letting them dry. The thing that's nice about this stuff is that then when they've dried and you're ready to start finishing, you can just simply peel the latex rubber off. It sticks well enough that it keeps moisture, it keeps the moisture from leaving out that end grain, but yet when you go to pull it off, it's just like pulling a rubber glove off. It'll peel right off. And I don't know of anybody else in the turning industry that's discovered this stuff, and I haven't been using it very long, maybe 6 months or a year or something. But I've had good results with it overall, and I only use it on things that I'm going to not put back on the lathe and that aren't going to get turned again. But I do want to be able to sand further and use whatever kind of finish that I want to use on it.
Did you say where you got this?
Well, this one, the latex rubber, you can purchase it at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or certainly on Amazon. And if you go back in the craft section, I should have looked at Hobby Lobby to see what their brand name was, but they'll call it Mold Maker probably. It's a brush-on rubber, and if you were going to mold a surface of something, say you wanted to replicate that part, you could brush a coat of this stuff on, let it dry, brush another coat on, let it dry, build up 4 or 5 or 6 layers of it, and you can even add gauze or something to reinforce it, and then peel that back off, and then use plastics or whatever to make a part of it. So it's a inexpensive way of making molds basically, but you can find it locally here. So you know,
Amazon has a quart for $19.
Okay, yeah, and the little cans, I don't know what they would get there, but yeah. Well, now this Monster Makers, it's just a online store that has all kinds of things for making Halloween masks and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you look up people that make 3D molding and stuff, there's a whole slew of products.
Right. And the only thing to look for is one that's fairly thick. You want something that you're going to brush on, and it's not going to run down the face of it as it's setting up to cure.
So wick back
Wick in.
or wick back.
Or wick. Well, even if you used a thinner version, it won't wick into the fibers enough that you can't peel it back off. It'll still peel back off. It's just having the thicker viscosity it's just easier to put it on, because you can brush on one thick coat at one time, and it won't run down the sides. But then you can just peel the stuff off. So anyway, that is one of the tools in the bag that I use. The other one that most of you are aware of course, is microwaving bowls. And the 2 samples that I brought here, you'll have to excuse. I was telling the guys I had cut some sycamore and worked it up into bowl lengths. And sycamore can be really bad about getting ring shake on the sides of it. And I was watching for it, and the ends of the log were like that. The center section seemed to be fine, and I started turning a couple of bowls, and they were started separating on the cracks on the crack before I even finished the bowl. So those all went on the burn pile. But I went ahead and kept this. This was turned Saturday. It weighed 551 grams. And I have an old microwave in the shop that was probably used on the Ark. It's that old. And so it's not nearly as powerful as some of the new ones. But on that particular microwave, if I just punch 111 and hit high power, it seems to be about the right amount of time to cycle where it'll heat the wood up but not catch it on fire or get out of control. And so this weighed 511 grams, and I have run 12 cycles of that. So 12 1-minute cycles in the microwave. And when I have something in there, I'll turn it on. I put the timer on my phone for 30 minutes and just hit it, and then walk off and do whatever I'm doing, and the timer will go off, and I'll come back in and make a mark on the thing and hit it again. And so this is not completely dry yet. You can still feel a little dampness in it, but it has lost about 6.5 ounces of moisture in 12 cycles. So it's a pretty effective way of drying something fairly fast. And most of the time when I'm doing something in the microwave, it's something that there's a challenge or something that I waited to the last minute to get done, and I'm trying to hurry the process up along.
Do you ever use the plastic bag method in the microwave?
I've not used a plastic bag, no. No, and that's what, putting it in a plastic bag?
Yeah, you put it in a plastic bag, seal it up, and then turn on your microwave, and when the bag blows up, because you're steam in there, you shut it down, let it cool back down, and then you do it all over again.
Okay, I have not tried that. I just, I put mine in and for the 111 cycle, and then I do keep the door closed on the microwave and leave the humidity. I don't let the microwave dry out in between times, so I'm kind of slow on letting the humidity out of the microwave. But anyway, that's not a new trick. That's not my trick. There's lots of people that are doing that and having good results. But again, the cracking wasn't because of the drying method. It was flawed wood to start with. But anyway, that works really well. The other thing that I played around with quite a bit are the desiccant beads, and again, not my discovery, but they work amazingly well. They're just they're the same kind of beads that you'd find in electronics or whatever in the little packages, and they make them in different colors. You can get them in clear, you can get them in blue and orange. The ones that are orange, if you look on Amazon and search for them, the ones that are orange are food safe. They'll say right on there's not anything that is going to contaminate your bowl. And the ones that are blue, evidently the dye that the blue is not 100% food safe. But the purpose of the color on it is that they change colors when they are full of moisture. These will turn kind of dark brown when they fully absorb moisture. And so I'll take a bucket or something, line it with a plastic bag. I turned another bowl that same size that had ring shanked also, and I put this in on Saturday, and I haven't opened it or checked it. It worked up good. It weighed 574 grams on Saturday. It weighs 334 now.
Wow.
So that would be 5. On my calculator, because I know I can't do it in my head. let's say 334. That's 240 grams, but that's 8.5 ounces. Yeah, 8.5 ounces of moisture that's come out of it in just what, 4 or 5 days.
The nice thing about the desiccant is you can get some of it you can recycle.
Right, and
Put it
that's
back in the microwave.
right.
and
Yeah,
just
this is a reusable product. It changes colors to let you know when it's no longer going to pull any moisture out. But you can regenerate it. You can do it in the microwave, or you can do it in the oven when your wife's not home. I have a lab oven in my shop that's bigger than a normal household oven, and I have 10 gallons of this stuff, so I have a lot of it. That's the only thing I don't like about this product is it just takes a while to recharge it. You have to put it on a cookie sheet or something, and then 250 degrees, and it'll take 2.5 to 3 hours to completely dry the stuff back out. But once you do that, it's good to go again, and you can use it over and over and over.
Did you find a cheap, inexpensive source for it, though?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever find an inexpensive source for it? I
This
looked into it one time, a couple of years ago, and it was terribly expensive.
It's gotten better. I have a 3D printer, and so I get the desiccant packs and use them in my. I have a multicolored printer, so it keeps spools have to stay at 15%. So I have sealed cereal jugs that I throw those packs in, and when they change color, I just throw them in the microwave for so long, and they're not. You can get quite a bit anymore because 3D printing's gotten real popular. So the price of those have come down quite a bit.
And it is kind of stupid expensive to at least get going on it. The only thing is it's kind of like buying a new gouge or scraper or something like that. It hurts the first time, but if you can keep using it, and you can use it over and over, it spreads the cost out over time. I'm just looking to see what this stuff runs.
I don't quite bite that much. Yeah. I've had some of mine for a year. So.
Somebody on Facebook here a couple of years ago had 2 5-gallon buckets of it, and they wanted like $40 for it, and I couldn't get there fast enough.
Well,
I
and
didn't get it.
what led me down this rabbit trail was there's a guy not far from me that buys the stuff at the pallets of stuff at Cargo Largo, and and resells and buys stuff at auctions and whatnot. And he has a huge barn, and twice a week he has a sale, and the place is really, really well organized on what he has in there. But you never know what you're going to find, because he has, not only does he have a 50-year supply of stuff in the barn, whatever he found that week is the new stuff. And I just happened to find, I think 5-gallon cans of the stuff that he had, and it's the stuff that was clear, that didn't have any color to it. And I asked him if he knew what it was. He said, I don't have any idea what this stuff is. And I said, well, what do you want for it? He goes, I'd take $5 a gallon for it. And I said, well, I'll give you 3. He sold. So that was the cheapest stuff that I'm ever going to buy. But the 3 or 4 gallons that I bought off of Amazon were, I don't know, $30 or something. It hurt a little bit to do it, but it does a really good job. I've done the previous demo that I did at the other. I had done some samples of walnut. I think they were pieces of walnut. They were cut to the same size. They were the same thickness. They were all cut out of the same fresh green log, and I dried some of them set some of them out just to air dry. I used the desiccant beads on some of them, and then I microwaved them just to get some kind of correlation between the three to see if there was any one of those methods led more to cracking or splitting or defects in the wood. And even though this stuff dries the wood really, really fast, it really does pretty well on not cracking edges and whatnot. If you have a sharp, if you have a sharp edge that's, well, this is rounded over, but if you'd left that edge sharp and put it in there, those sharp edges are always prone to cracking way easier than if it's something that's rounded over. So as long as you round over the edges, it minimizes that and does a good job.
This wouldn't be any good for turning stock.
Well, there's Bill Falo in the other club that does. He does salt shaker, the pepper mills, and he takes green wood and he pre-drills his hole in the green wood, and I guess I think those are 3 by 3 maybe, or 3 1/4 stock, and he's just taking a piece of a PVC pipe and putting a cap on the bottom of it, and then pre-drilling the blank and sliding it in, filling it up with these beads, and drying those from green wood to dry in a couple of weeks. He just leaves them on there, and he's had really good luck with it, and has used a variety of wood, different woods doing it as well.
Sure.
So if you're doing anything of any thickness, if it's possible to core it or to at least get a hole running down the center of it, it's certainly going to help with that.
How long did you say that one had been in that bucket?
This one had been in the bucket just since Saturday.
And it dried that much?
Yeah, just since Saturday. It was late in the day Saturday. So
How much do you use?
Hmm?
How much do you use?
Well, I used just enough to I had about an inch below. So I poured about an inch in, and this was the right size for the bucket, and just filled it up and just covered it over so it was completely surrounded with the beads. You do want enough that it stays in contact with the wood, and so the more you have, the better luck you're going to have on drying. And the one thing it won't do is if it's going to warp, it's going to warp. You're not going to change that. So on once turn things, it's going to take whatever shape it was going to take regardless.
Did you or anybody in the other club actually try the food dehydrator? Did you know it?
I have not, and the only thing that would scare me on that a little bit is if moving air. I haven't had great luck with moving air. I had my first experiment with trying to dry things faster is a friend had bought years ago or his wife had bought a drying cabinet, which it looked like a big metal cabinet like this, but it had I guess she would put the clothes in there to finish drying, and it had an air that moved in it and heat both. And I thought it would be just the perfect thing to dry wood in, and I tried on that, but the moving air is what gave me a lot of problems.
Cracking problem?
Yeah, on cracking problems. Now, having said that, if I could turn back time, I don't know for sure that I was in coating, coating in grain at that time too. So it may have been more operator error than everything else. I think if you took something and you coated the end grain, particularly inside and outside on a bowl shape or something, you could probably get by with a little bit of moving air. Because I know there's lots of people that are using an old refrigerator or upright chest freezer to make a kiln, and they'll use a little computer fan in there to move some air around, and they're having decent luck with those. But I don't, in my dishwasher kiln, I don't have I don't have any moving air at all. What seems to work best on that is the fact that you're putting a bunch of stuff in there at one time. It's 100% humidity for days and days and days, and with temperature, with the temperature building as it's in there, and then that humidity gradually, dissipates as the temperature goes up a little bit, and it's worked really, really well for me.
There's a natural vent in that dishwasher or something?
Yeah, the lid, a dishwasher, I think they vent through the lid
Okay.
up at the top.
Yeah.
But then these little metal brackets, they're just sitting in there too, so you could lose a little bit of air movement out the bottom.
So 100 watt incandescent.
Right. Yeah, which are getting harder and harder to find.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to make a run someplace and just stock up on a few of those, because it's become harder and harder to.
Well, if you go into an electrical supply house and ask for severe duty bulbs,
Okay.
you can still get them.
Oh, can you? Okay. All right. I also have a sawmill, and I have a solar kiln, and then I have a dehumidification kiln also, but I haven't used either. I haven't tried putting anything in those. At some point, I'll throw some bowls out in the solar kiln and see, because that does have a lot of moving air in it, and that'll be a pretty interesting test to see how they hold up on that. But my solar kiln is 12 foot wide, and so I could probably get 400 or 500 in there. But anyway, I don't rush the drying on stuff unless there's a need for it. I still do lots of bowls where I just simply put them in a bag and put them away. But I am a little impatient. When particularly green wood, it's never prettier than when you take a block of wood and you start developing it into whatever it's going to be, and you get a chance to see, the grain and what's going on there. And at that point, I'm really, really interested in what's happening, and just the idea of sticking that on in a shelf for 6 months and then having to come back and get reinvested in it is hard to do. But both of these things have helped me, and I think the latex rubber is going to be a pretty good tool in the chest to use in the future to seal the sides of things and keep them from cracking.
You haven't tried the latex and the desiccants?
I have not, although I didn't do that on this. No, I didn't do that on this. This one was already cracked, so I knew it was just going to get worse. But I didn't try I have not tried it on that. And it would probably be, if I was doing oak, I would probably do that, because oak is a challenging wood to dry for me. It seems to fight you on cracking. And I know anybody that does in the sawmill business, they curse oak. They almost always air dry, whether it's 1 inch thick stuff or 2.5 inch slabs. They'll always air dry that stuff for a year or two before they ever put it in a kiln for that reason. So, are there any other methods that anybody here has had that they have? Because the bag idea that Mike mentioned, I had not heard that before, and I'm always more than interested to have my.
I had some.
Have you tried the antifreeze polyethylene?
I have not tried that. I've read up on it, and the problem that I read up on was just the fact of it's impregnating into the wood and all that, and then that plays into what you're going to, how you're going to finish it.
Don't
And
do
what
that
you're
in
gonna
your
do.
soup bowl.
And, you know, denatured alcohol, lots of turners have used denatured alcohol to speed up the process too, but that stuff is like liquid gold anymore. It's become really, really expensive. So that's a no-go for me.
Had some 1-inch walnut one time that I put in, and I put my slats in it to get my airspace. I just covered it with a tarp, and it was in almost constant sun, and 3 months it was dry.
It was dry, yeah.
What I started out doing was putting the green shavings in a paper, grocery bag with the piece, and stowing it away. But then I got a whole lot of paper bags on the shelf, so I use the PVA now, and it's great. Also, I tried, I heard about taking and soaking the piece with dish soap and water, and then pull that out and put that in the paper bag. I didn't see any difference in that, so I stopped doing that anymore. But I use the PVA, and I think it's wonderful.
There was a guy, when I first began turning, there was the Springfield Club. There was a guy in that club, David, I can't remember David's last name, but he was nice enough to have us over to his shop and turn something, and I was as green could be at that point, but he would always soak his in cedar. I have a 5-gallon bucket of it at home. Cedar oil or cedar side, I think maybe, but it was a cedar oil, and he would soak that for a day or two, and he swore by that stuff to helps, kind of like the denatured alcohol thing. It supposedly replaces some of the water, some of the bound water in it. And I bought a 5-gallon bucket of it, and I did use it and liked it, but I just got away from it and quit doing it. So.
Well, I know if you put the bowl in a plastic bag with shavings instead of a paper bag, it'll spalt the wood real nice.
Yeah, you can do a Louis Pasteur thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get a Louis Pasteur thing going real quick with that.
It actually came out pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and there's guys that will do that, and then they'll every day they'll take it out of the bag and reverse the bag, and put
Yeah,
the
it was not that delicate.
put the wet side
I did it every 2
out,
weeks.
to
I was
get.
trying to make it spalt though.
Yeah.
I also wrote about that. It worked.
Well, guys, that's all. It's a short talk, but that's all I've got. I'll shut up.
Okay. Thank you very much.